Welcome to another episode of Educating Homebuyers, the podcast. I'm your host, Brady, and my mortgage team has over 9 years of mortgage experience here in Des Moines, Iowa. Whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, investing, or simply just curious about the market, this show is all about helping you and future homebuyers feel informed, educated, and comfortable as you take your next step. Each week, I sit down with real estate professionals, past clients, and local experts to unpack real stories, real advice, and what you actually need to know when buying a home today. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. In today's episode, I get to introduce somebody who I have the opportunity and privilege to work alongside here in Des Moines. Buying a home can feel very overwhelming, and if you don't have someone in your corner who can walk you through the process, answer questions, and make sure who actually understands what's happening at each step. That is the approach that today's guest takes with every client that he works with. He's passionate about helping individuals and families navigate the home buying process with confidence, focusing on clear communication, transparency, and making sure clients feel comfortable every step of the way. Before getting into the mortgage industry, he worked across several different industries, including retail, entertainment, and the restaurant business, which has helped him shape the people-first mindset that he brings to work today. He also serves clients in both English and Spanish, helping more families in our community access home ownership and understand the mortgage process. Luis Solis, welcome to Educating Homebuyers.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate you, man.
The chief is what I should call him, right?
That's right.
This is the chief, everybody. But, no, listen, man. So context for everybody. Luis and I are coworkers. We share a wall in the office, so we spend a lot of time together. We are on the same key mortgage group, which you have all become very familiar with. But listen, man, I'm excited to have you share your story, how you got into this industry, and just more about our group, and you know, get to brag about what we built a little bit as well, which is going to be awesome. So,
yeah, absolutely, man. It's great to be here. Finally, I know we talked about it and finally made it work schedule-wise.
It's because you're so busy.
I know, right?
You got too many things going on. Yeah. But no, so let's start off with that. Let's give everybody a background. Who's Luis? How'd you get into the mortgage world? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so raised here in the Des Moines area. Obviously, pretty well connected as far as, growing up here, going to school here, sticking around, family, everything here. How I got into the business. So just a week or two ago, I reached my 4 years in the industry. And how that started was with Louis Wickett, which is our branch manager, and current LO there at our office. I knew him obviously before joining the industry. His wife, and my wife are friends. They've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
So we got connected. At that time, it was around COVID or post-COVID. I think we were just hanging out at his house, I think.
Yeah.
And he kind of just put that in my ear, or, we were talking about business, how it was going.
Yeah.
At that time I was working from home, which, I was okay with, but then it got kind of old for me. Never really been one to just, work from home.
Yeah.
I like to be out and about and, talking to people.
COVID was kind of a wild time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Long story short, a couple months after that time we were meeting there talking about that, the opportunity came up where, I could join his team as a junior loan officer.
Yeah.
To give you some background, I had no real estate background or knowledge really, besides the fact that the year prior to that, we had bought our house. Yeah. And obviously we had gone through Louis. So knowing that I had no background and, I was thinking about it, but I also was unsure because I had no real background in real estate.
Yeah.
So how I decided that I was going to make the jump over was thinking about the process that we had gone through when we bought our house, and how just smooth and easy to understand it was, the whole process was. So I figured, if I could learn that process or, use that, first year or however long it was going to take to learn that process and, be able to replicate that into, my everyday job.
Yep.
That's kind of where it got sold, or, I was sold on it, on joining, the industry. Fast forward, a year after that, still, even till the day is still there, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, we have a great group. Feel like, the last 4 years still learned a lot, finally in a rhythm where, we have our process pretty dialed in, and obviously, still working on improving as you always should.
Yep.
But no, it's been great. And that's really what brings us here.
So now is as good a time as ever for you to take ownership in the fact that you completely ruined the real estate market.
That's
and
right.
And you made interest rates double, right?
Yeah,
it was the moment that Luis got his license that rates went from 3% to 7%.
That's right. Yeah,
So,
we got very little there of like the really low rates, the crazy market, right, where it was super busy. But no, had to clear the room a little bit.
You had to just like get it all out of there. So I think that's interesting though. And from your perspective, you guys bought, and then it was, basically right after that you got into the industry. Talk about that if you don't mind. Like, what has this change in market taught you as, somebody who's gone from a homeowner to now an advisor? What does that look like? And how have you navigated that? Because I'll give you props. Like, the mortgage industry has not been easy the last 4 years, right? And more importantly, from our homeowner standpoint, but like, homeownership's not been very affordable for clients the last 4 years. It's been a big magnifying glass around that affordability piece. But you've navigated starting fresh in this industry amidst all of that, frankly, and done really well with it, and built a brand that you can be proud of, and a client database and referral partner database amidst arguably the hardest real estate market ever.
Sure.
So talk about that. What's been your mindset and how have you approached that?
Yeah, I think I was able to early on realize that, when it comes to buying a home, there are certain things that you can control and certain things that you cannot control, right? Yeah. The market being one of them, right? Like we hear the news, we see all these things that affect the market, such as race and all that stuff. But a lot of that we really can't do anything about, right? So I think early on I realized, that taking matters into my own hands with what I could control, right? So giving, a good experience with what I can control was priority for me, because then again, buying a home, to be honest, is hard and confusing, overwhelming for
regardless
a lot
of the market.
Right, regardless of the market, right? So I think taking that approach where I'm like, okay, how can I work with what I have, right?
Yeah.
Create the best situation or experience with what we have.
Yeah.
In the rest, I mean, it's kind of beyond our control, anyone's control, really. So I think the quicker I realized that, the better, because then I was able to just kind of focus on the experience and again, the things that I can control.
I love it. Let's talk about that. And I know the answer to this, but I want to have you share, what are some things that when you made that mindset shift and you wanted to focus on your process, what are some things that you implemented for your client's experience? When they call Luis to buy a house, what does that process look like for you?
Yeah. So how I started to kind of figure all that stuff out is I would refer back to my experience and what made it so easy and for me to understand as someone who had no experience, didn't even know what insurance was, escrow, honestly, like even the terms, just like refinance, like I had no idea, right? So I would just refer back to that, and then implementing systems that would allow me to thoroughly explain things without having to burn myself out and like repeat a lot of the stuff that
I'm going to challenge you on that, because you work your tail off.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know that I've had an accountability conversation with you about before. Like, you work really hard and long days and long hours.
Yep.
So that's definitely something that I've seen growth
for sure
in you on, and not burning yourself out, because it is, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but this is a career we want to do forever. Right.
Yeah,
and in order for that to be the case, we have to find a way to do it where we don't get that burnout feeling, So how have you kind of managed that, I guess? Yeah.
And I think it comes down to like the people who I'm around, right? Like all our guys at their office, we're there, pretty much every day of the week.
Yep.
Whether it's in or out or just in there the whole day. But obviously learning from those guys, everyone at our office, we're always kind of looking for ways to improve. And I think that's something we do really well, is bounce ideas off each other. And then we're able to implement, whatever we want. 'Cause like, just like anything, right? You can have all the tools, the resources at your disposal, but if you don't use them or implement them, I mean, they're pretty much worthless. So I think that's what also makes, our office a little bit different, because, we hold ourselves accountable, each other accountable, just to make a overall better experience. And, I always say it to, whoever I meet, we all operate pretty similar, and, I feel confident that, I'm surrounded with some of the best guys, around.
I think that our culture is one of the most unique selling points that we have, both from a client experience standpoint and a business partner standpoint. So if you're a realtor, like working with the Key Mortgage Group, what we always hope is that whether you work with Luis or Jared or Louie or Brady or Tucker, like, we want the consistent experience to be the same, right? For the most part. Obviously, we all have different nuances on how we handle our client experience, but that is very, very rare, specifically in Des Moines. I don't want to speak on behalf of national, lenders and stuff like that, but our culture is all very similar, and we create a similar client experience across the board, which is cool because we wouldn't have to do that, right? Like there's no benefit in one of us succeeding over the other, right? And in a sense, we're kind of competing for the same business. There is enough business for us to go around, and that's something that we've all accepted, but it's rare to find a real estate or mortgage office, for that matter, with a group of people who is all trying to grow at the same trajectory, right? And do it in the way that we can all be proud of, and that's something I'll tell you firsthand. When I left my bank job and went independent in the mortgage space, that was something that was very, very important to me, is I wanted to build a brand that I was proud of. And you are doing an incredible job with your social media and your merchandise that you give your clients and things like that. But Loans with Luis is kind of your brand, right? And like, that's something you can carry with you forever, right? And you can have pride when you lay your head down at night, which is probably morning for you. You tend to stay up all night.
I'm a night owl.
You tend to not sleep, but my point by that is, like, you've built an incredible brand that you can be proud of, and that's the cool part, is that we've all kind of done that together. And now we hope is that, if anybody ever gets recommended Key Mortgage Group, or like, that is a place that you can confidently go to get a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super important you tie your name with, whether it's a company or people, because really that's a direct reflection of your business and how you operate.
Yeah.
So that's super important to me. And obviously, with the group of guys that we have there at the office, I feel like I get that.
I think that, and I don't want to put you on the spot on this because I didn't prep you to talk about this before we started recording. I think something that would be really valuable for us to share is the difference between Key Mortgage Group and now this new company that we just partnered up with and are now powered by. If you don't mind, speak on behalf of, what did we see in ACM, or Atlantic Coast Mortgage, for everybody that's listening? That's now the mortgage company that we're powered by. What did we see in them in that transition? And then, being roughly at the time of filming 6 weeks into this transition, now working for ACM, what are some things that you've noticed differently that we have access to now that makes the experience better for clients?
Yeah, I just think it's super important that whenever there is change, that you're evaluating if it's truly to create a better or a positive experience for, again, our clients, but also like to make our jobs, a little bit more streamlined. So I feel like when we did the transition, obviously there was enough positives to outweigh the change, because honestly, what doesn't matter really what you're changing, change always, you may come, like, it comes with additional challenges,
without a doubt,
cost even, right? So we have to make sure that it's worth the change. And I think that we saw enough there, enough value, not just for like our own job, but also for like our customers that we'll be serving. So I think that, process is super important, systems, all that stuff. And I think that carries a big weight of why we made the change. Yeah,
I can tell you from my perspective, I've seen a big uptick in the systems and the technology that we have access to. Some of the CRM features, the communication. I will tell you that, like, as a systems nerd, the email communication throughout the process, from lead received to post closing, is night and day game changer with this new setup. So that's been a super valuable feature that I've noticed, because that's really, at the end of the day, what clients and agents deserve, right? Is that custom autonomy. And I saw this on, I think it was an Instagram story the other day, but you don't ever want, in the lending space, you don't ever want to be known as the lender that someone has to reach out to for an update.
Right.
They should already know where things are at. And that's where I feel like that's been one of the biggest pickups I've seen. Every single time a loan moves, everybody that's involved is getting an update from us automatically, and that starts even before we're under contract to find a house, which is super valuable. So I just think, if there's anything that I can encourage people listening to this on, is like, know that the people that, frankly, even Luis and I trust, it's beyond us even, they vetted these decisions pretty heavily, and there were a lot of different options they looked at. But at the end of the day, they did their research and kept the clients at the forefront of that. The thing that is so cool about our group is that at the end of the day, for the client's standpoint, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
And the beauty of that is that like our people and the people that call us to get a mortgage, they trust us, right? They call Luis. They don't call the company that we're working for. And that's been so cool is like, we can hang our hats wherever. We're going to make it work because that's what we want for our clients. But also know that this change has been for their benefit, right? From a pricing standpoint, from a communication, from a systems, we want to make sure that we're always partnering up with, the best mortgage company that allows us for that, and makes it streamlined.
Yeah, so I agree. And you mentioned that, the customers are, the forefront of this change, which is very true, but also like, making not just our job easier with these systems and this updated process, but also our business partners, right? You have your realtor partners, which are getting consistent updates, which takes some stuff off their plate, if they're aware of, where we are in the process. Insurance agents, appraisers, inspectors, title. There's so many people involved in the loan. I think that it's, now more than ever important to stay up to date on technology, and, those processes that we rely so heavily on.
I think it's cool too, because I didn't even realize the stuff that we didn't have until we have access to some of this stuff now. Like, it's cool, like the stuff that we can do. Example, and not to get super in depth, but like the last 24 hours, I've been building my website, and I've been using ChatGPT and AI to build this entire thing and link it with some of these new tools and features that we have at ACM. And it's just been, I don't know. I want to elevate the client experience and make it as streamlined as much as I possibly can. Also, while understanding that it's for, the betterment of our lives too, and it makes our lives easier as well.
Sure.
So
because especially in this time, right, where like time, that's super important.
Very valuable.
On a personal level for me and like my kids, right, we have to find a way to fit everything in and during the day, and finding those softwares or programs that may automate some stuff while not losing that personal touch for clients is super important for me. Obviously just structuring my day and fitting everything into a busy schedule.
Touch on your approach from a social media standpoint. I think that's something that's become a big part of your business and where your growth has become. And I'll tell you, like, I've been really proud of the way you've approached it because it's different than the rest of us. Like obviously I have the podcast, Louis does his videos, Jared does his. Yours is like super unique, but I love the way that it matches your aura and your persona.
Sure.
So talk about that. Like, what does that look like and how do you want a client to receive your social media content?
So when I started, I guess, you could say take social media from a business standpoint a little bit more serious. I first dialed in, what are my traits or like what I like, right? So we know, I can name off a couple of like the things that I like to engage with on social media. So Facebook and Instagram are my bigger platforms that I use. So I dialed in, the things that I like, music, fashion, food, sports, right? Everything that I like, and then categorize them. I have my personal page and my business page, but really I use them
interchangeably,
right? But I really just highlight like everything that I do like. I think it's super important that you connect with, whether it's business partners, clients, prospects, leads, anyone, that you connect with them on a more personal level first, where they become your friend first, right? And it doesn't even have to be anything business related. And that just creates a easier path to maybe business down the road. And there's going to be people who engage with your social media, but you may never even reach to a business relationship with them, and that's totally fine,
okay,
right? What I found is that I've gotten a lot more engagement that way. Whether it's, like I said, someone comments on something that I post about, sports or food or drinks or whatever, right? So I feel like that's where I saw most of my growth on social media. Leading to then the business page, which I have, a lot of the similar followers, right, from personal to business page. And then again, you're just staying out in front of people that way, where people are going to look at your page and then they might not need your services then, but, if they interact enough and, you touch base with them every now and then, or they comment on something, then you want to be top of mind. You'll remember, or you're hoping that they remember, like, oh, Luis, the guy that likes, this the Lakers or the Dodgers or whatever, but he also does mortgages, right? So like when that time comes, that conversation should be a lot easier because you know that you have some common ground, or you talked about whatever amount or whatever topic.
Yep. I'll give you kudos. Like, that is the biggest thing that you do so well compared to even myself, right? If you just look at it apples to apples, you create content that people want to consume, right? And I think that's something that's so valuable for anybody listening to this that's looking into creating content. You have to create something that someone else wants to watch, right? And I've been doing this 10 years, and when I first started, I instinctively just went and started creating a bunch of content about mortgages. And then I had this aha, it's like, holy shit, nobody really gives a crap about mortgages. It's the truth, right? And it's ironic to say because I'm on a mortgage podcast, right? But I think that the difference in doing it this way rather than me filming a bunch of content about, how to put 20% down or how to put 10% down. The difference of this is they get to feel my tone, right? And the fact that I care about them. That's really what I like about this. But your content, it creates it's an environment that is welcoming, and it's personable, it's relatable. Right. It's, even as simple as like just a video of you typing on your computer or drinking a cup of coffee or whatever your, video is that you post, that is consumable. People are like, oh, that's my guy, Luis. Right. Yeah. But then you do little subtle touches of like, did you know X, Y, and Z, right? Like, that's the valuable stuff that I love about the content you build. Because again, when you look at it and you're in the eyes of someone who's trying to consume that content and they're on their phone and maybe they're on the couch and scrolling wherever they're at, you want them to stop and look and acknowledge your existence, right? And even if they don't click the like button, you want them to be able to know like, hey, that's my mortgage guy, so that when I'm going to call them or when I'm looking to buy a house or refinance, I can call Luis, right? Yeah, exactly. That's the difference between sitting in front of a camera and saying, did you know that you only pay PMI if you do less than 20% down? Like, that's just, it's not consumable content. Now, it's important. Yeah. I do think that education in mortgage is important, which is why we sprinkle that stuff in, right? Sure. But knowing that at the end of the day, what I always tell my people is the way you structure your mortgage is very important. But it's important that it's easy for you. So trust us to structure it based on the goals that you tell me. For sure. Right. And I think that's why we always focus on when we get an opportunity to represent a client, the first thing we're wanting to identify is what are your goals? Yeah. What do you want out of this home buying process? Whether it's your payment, whether it's your amount of money out of pocket, whether it's where you want to live, type of house you want, so on and so forth. Those goals are more important than, the mortgage process and the products, more importantly, right, that you want. Based on those goals, we can kind of help custom tailor the mortgage setup to match those goals. So I think it's really important with the content that we're creating to kind of create this buzz to not overwhelm people for sure with a bunch of shit. For sure. Because back to your social media point, I feel like, people get on Instagram or Facebook kind of to unplug. Yeah. Right. So whether it's just consume funny stuff or, just so I need to be pop culture stuff. I need to be more funny. Well, here's the thing, like I don't know any jokes. So like some of the stuff, you look at some of the videos and stuff that have the most engagement. Honestly, it's the funny shit. Yeah, it's like stuff that really has no value besides just like comical stuff, right? Yeah. So I think with the short form content, people, you have like less than half a second to grasp someone's attention span, right? Otherwise, if you start off with something that's not, or kind of boring or numbered or something, most of the time they're just gonna keep scrolling, right? Where if you do something a little bit more visual, engaging for a few seconds, they're most likely to watch, that 8-second clip or whatever. I think this is super valuable. If you're a real estate agent watching this, the last thing you want to do by starting a short form video is introduce yourself. I hate to break it to you, but nobody gives a shit. It's the truth. They don't care who I am either. Yeah, I mean. But how many agents do we see, and this is mortgage lenders and everybody that's trying to create content, you start and say, hey, my name's Brady and I'm at 123 Main Street. Nobody cares. It's the truth, right? Yeah, like you need to create content in that first half a second, like you talked about, that's going to catch their eye. Yep. So highlight something about the house, or, you have to create that hook is what it's called in social media. That's going to really reel in that listener so that they watch the rest of that tour of that house that you're showing. Right. Yeah. Cause that's the tip of the day. I think, at the end of the day, people just want to deal with regular people. So like, we all have things that we like. Yep. If you find some common ground there, that's a start with a, relationship with someone that you may have not ever met before.
So, when the time does come where they're curious about how to start the process, whether they're going to buy in next month or in 6 months or next year, they feel like they know you because of like the content that you posted, not necessarily with the business content you posted, but.
And I think for our agent partners that are watching this, like most of the short form stuff they're making nowadays is listing tours, right? Like if you have a listing or maybe you're just hosting an open house, regardless, a lot of the videos they're posting are, supposed to be highlighting the houses, right? And I think that the biggest misconception is that you need to introduce yourself at the beginning of that. The video needs to be about the house, not the person showing it.
Sure.
Now, if you do the right video content and you highlight the house in a way that attracts viewership, then you get the honor and privilege to introduce yourself to the person that interacts with your video. But if you want to, engage with the people, take yourself out of it.
Yeah,
is the way
absolutely.
I would tell you.
Yeah, I think the raw material of like the content creation is super important too. Storytelling is super important. I feel like that gets a lot of traction too because it's relatable.
Yeah.
If you explain, how you helped the client, what you navigated through, the ups, the downs, because there's plenty of them. We know it, but those always, don't always make the cut on the highlight, right?
But how much more valuable is that story of that client than the just sold post that you posted, right?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, just closed. Okay, cool. That's a house with wood and siding and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But if you share the mom and pop, story or the kids that, deserve this home that they're going to get to live in, or the heart behind it, that stuff's going to be more valuable than, just a just sold post.
For sure. Yeah. There's plenty of ways to be relatable, that, generate business indirectly. Right. And I think that's and
I think there's a fine line too in a sales type industry, regardless whether it's mortgage or real estate, sharing closings and like production and stuff. There's always a fine line on that. You'll notice from my own content, like I don't post when my clients close on houses. I just don't feel, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, I don't want it to be a bragging or a boastful type situation. Right. And so I think there's a fine line in there, and I really like the way you do it. Like every once in a while you'll share a picture with your clients, right? And it's the clients that you care about, not the closing itself. Yeah. It's not to say, hey, look at me, I closed $2.5 million or $3 million or whatever it is. We don't care about the money. We care about the human beings that we're interacting with. And obviously we selfishly want every opportunity to work with as many people as we possibly can, because that's how we support our families.
Yeah.
But it matters more that the people that we are interacting with get the service and the experience they deserve, not that we get the recognition of the units or volumes that we close.
Correct. Yeah. And like that end of the process, right? The picture, whatever you post, a lot of times it's just because simply, you've created a really good relationship with these clients. And a lot of times, they are my closer friends that, I've known for since childhood, right? So that always makes it easy and fun to post.
Well, and how about the people that never thought that they could pull it off?
Right.
Like how cool is it that like how many clients have we helped? They're like, I never thought I could buy a house. And then we get to help them bridge that gap. Those are the things that deserve to be shared. That's why you'll see it like on my pages, I'll share more reviews than I will, closing accomplishments, right? Like I'm not going to post like my monthly volume boards or anything like that. I want to post the reviews because I want to make an impact on the people, you know, and the mortgage is just the avenue that I get to have, and I think that John was the first one that ever told me this, but I fell in love with the mortgage industry because I love the relationships, not because I love mortgage loans.
Yeah, for sure. And I to touch on that too, I mean, through most of my social media, the clients, whether I've met them before application or not, they end up being my friends on social media too, which is awesome. Yeah. Because then I get to follow kind of their journey, still be in touch with them. Yeah. And that's always cool because then, I'm able to see their family updates and, see what they got going on.
I know I've been doing this longer than you have, but like I'm at the point now where I help them buy their first married house and then they have a kid and then they upgrade. And like that is just some of the coolest stuff that you'll ever get to be a part of in this world is helping people navigate through these, different journeys of their life and stages of their life, because, hopefully that we get to continue to help create wealth, right?
Yeah,
and that's what real estate can do.
Yeah, especially because our line of business can be very transactional. But if you, have the right systems in place and a good process, that repeat business, I mean, it'll come natural if you have everything in place.
Yep. And that's what we hope. So, well, this has been awesome, dude. I know I tell you this often, but thank you for being an accountability partner from a work standpoint, but also a genuine friend. It's been fun to, really, I wouldn't have known you without work. Right.
Yeah.
And it's been cool now to have the true friend that I feel like I have in you outside of the office as well. I hope that our clients feel that with us as well, and know that Luis and I are both helping, each other grow and build, and know that if you're ever looking for a mortgage and you want to call Key Mortgage Group, we're here to help. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give you your flowers too, man. I mean, this is awesome. I watch every episode, and you got something good going. And
I can tell you confidently, I wouldn't do it without your guys' push. Yeah. So I'm appreciative of you guys and pouring into me and allowing me access to your business partners too. Yeah, it's been, absolutely. Your crew's been a big part in supporting this growth. So, just excited to see what's to come. So let's kind of wrap up there. But if anybody is looking to get pre-approved, needs a Spanish speaking lender, Luis is 100% your guy in that front. But he also speaks English too, if you can't tell that. Right. So he helps English-speaking clients as well. But Luis, thank you again, buddy. I'll be sure to link all your information in the description below. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Educating Homebuyers. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.